Here we go. We're
Hi.
we're both in the same. Yay.
Yay. Okay, so are we recording, Erin?
They're recording.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Well, we had a little bit of technology issues this morning, so we're going to try a different platform. So that's okay. We're learning to be flexible
Oh,
and we're learning as we go. So I am here with my friend Erin, who is from Mom Sense Coaching. My name is Abby Waters, and I just started my own business called Grow Coach. So we're going to talk a little bit about personal growth, emotional health, and why we use assessments in our coaching practices, and what some of the work that Erin has done with the Enneagram and how that is beneficial to helping people find self-awareness and in growing in their own personal relationships with other people. So, and I would like to highlight a little bit about the emotional quotient assessment that we're using right now to help us with managing our emotions from day to day and managing how we kind of regulate with other people socially as well. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, and we'll give some information for our fall groups too a little bit at the end of the video, and maybe post some more links about how people can join in on those. So, Erin, why do you think? Well, maybe talk about the Enneagram a little bit first, and what you're doing with that with your clients, and how it's helping people with self-awareness and helping them improve their relationships, whether it's parenting or marriages or whatever they're using it for.
yeah, for sure. So the Enneagram is one of those assessments that tells you why you do what you do, how you see the world, what motivates you, and it also creates empathy because the more you get to know yourself and see how you see the world, you notice that not everyone sees things the way you do, right? And so having that understanding and that perspective that everyone's a little different, it helps you adjust your expectations, and it helps you accept and love other people better. So the Enneagram, um, typically you want to think of it as having 9 types or 9 core motivations. Ennea means 9. And we can move around that diagram as well, depending if we're stressed, if we're healthy, um, depending on the situation, depending on the person we're with. But it helps us make those adjustments to be the true person that we are and be more self-aware, which will decrease conflict. It will decrease any misunderstandings that you have, whether it be in your family or at work. It helps you communicate more clearly. And like I said before, empathy is huge because the more we understand ourselves, the more we'll understand other people, and the more we are able to, just have more peaceful relationships.
Absolutely. I think we always say, if you're not wearing your own oxygen mask, how are you going to help other people wear theirs? And people often think that their job is to make everybody else happy and please everybody else around them, or perform for their boss, or, be the perfect mom for their kids. And they're looking at it in the wrong, like from all the wrong angles. They're not trying to understand themselves first, or their emotions, or their core needs or values first. And so uh, they're going about it all in the wrong direction. And stopping to take time to actually focus on these areas of your own personal life and your own emotional health. Erin says all the time, this is not selfish behavior. This is, again, you're wearing your own oxygen mask so that you can help other people wear theirs better too. So it really starts with you first. And I think the Enneagram has been helpful. I just used the Enneagram in my marriage on Sunday as I was having a conversation with my spouse. One of my wings, I guess you could say, is 8. And that's somebody who challenges something all the time. They're always looking for a challenge, and they might be challenging other people. And I had to explain to my spouse that that can't be offensive to you. That's just how I am. And so then I think, when you're dealing with somebody who's more like a 9, like a peacemaker, that frustrates them. That's really difficult. And so to have these languages and have these descriptions around Enneagram or DISC, about our personalities and how we're wired is really helpful, like Erin said, because we're going to solve conflict and we're going to be able to explain our emotions with more ease and more descriptive language. So these are the tools that we're using in our practices, and they're helping people. Erin, what are some of the light bulb moments or like the revelations people have had as they've used the Enneagram in your practice?
Well, I had one client who was struggling with her husband seemingly like abandoning her, because anytime there'd be a conflict, he would disappear,
Mm,
go
okay.
man cave, and she felt abandoned. And so she was really deeply hurt by that. Once she understood that that was an issue for her and that her husband wasn't abandoning her, he was actually retreating so he could gather his emotions and his thoughts, so he responded in a better way instead of just that quick, impulsive, maybe anger. He wanted to
Mm-hmm.
get a hold of his own emotions, and that's just how he um, deals with things. Once she
Mm-hmm.
understood that, she didn't feel abandoned anymore.
Right.
She was like, oh, okay, you don't want to get angry with me. You don't want to hurt me. And so you need time to process. You need
Mm-hmm.
time to think things through so you have a clear and better and healthier response and answer. And that's the way he does things. Once she realized that, it was so much more peaceful for their relationship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we in my coaching business, we use DISC, which is we call it the universal language, which all of these assessments are very similar. I found my Enneagram to be very compatible with my DISC assessment. And I think once you know that language about what your spouse is too, and you know that about their personality and how they process their emotions, it cuts down on so much conflict. Both my husband and I have a similar DISC style. We're both we would both be a D and an I together. A D is somebody who's dominant, somebody who likes to have the big picture in front of them, likes to have a strong vision, likes to know where they're going. They don't really wait around for other people to tell them what to do. So we're both similar that way. And then we also have that I component, which is influence, which is highly relational, highly influential, likes to be around people. And so sometimes you can be really compatible with someone because they're like you. And sometimes you can be annoyed by somebody because they're similar to you. And when you know that information, whether it's a spouse or a coworker or a friend, again, you see them in a different light and maybe not take things as personal, or not realize that you don't need to compete with them, that you're actually just very similar in personality styles. And it's really helpful. Like in my workshops, I'm doing a workshop next week for a group of 17 people, and this is going to be in an organizational setting. They're going to learn about each other as teammates, and that's going to be really valuable information. People that you work with day after day, what are their styles? How do they communicate? How to cut down on conflict in a workplace setting, which that happens all the time. So I think that you can use these assessments for any relationship. You can use them in any context. And recently I was having fun with two girlfriends of mine, and we sat around at the end of a play date, and they took a mini disc on their phone and a mini Enneagram on their phone. And we had a great discussion. And it was so much fun to try to get to know their style so that we could be better friends to each other too.
For sure. Yeah, our expectations get adjusted too. So whether it be expectations within, a family, or expectations within your work, once we understand each other, things can run so much more smoothly and you can be so much more productive.
Right. Productivity is so true, Erin, because our emotions and how we think about other people are often our biggest productivity hijacks. And so, people always think they need to be performing, getting all these tasks done. But really, our world is filtered through others. There's no way that we can get around that. We can't just be task driven or task oriented all the time, because people are in our world, that our relationships are what's core core at our center and core of how we live our lives. And so I think one of the things that we want to communicate to people is, you can continue to invest in the gym, invest in Starbucks, invest in lotions and candles and all these different things. But have you ever stopped and taken time to invest in yourself and learning about how you are wired as a person? And I think you definitely can't go wrong. It's worth the investment, because the only thing that can change is more self-awareness and more peace and more humility and more self-confidence too, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. So it's really important to just maybe try at least once in your life to look into these concepts and see, how am I wired, or how can I improve the way I speak to other people? And I think I want to talk a little bit about that too, Erin. Like, how do we communicate better with people? Because of this information we have, like, what can we observe about other people's styles, or how they're living in their environment? Like, how are some of the moms that you're working with parenting their children differently because they know about what their emotions are or their self-awareness is?
Right. Well, one thing that I always want to be clear about is we don't ever want to type someone else. We don't want to, think that we know why they're doing what they're doing. Let's just take a general example of things that are going on in our world right now. Masks. We have such a spectrum of what people believe about mask wearing, right?
Right.
And there's some people getting really angry and upset on either ends, right? You're making me wear a mask, don't tell me what to do, or I have to wear a mask because I don't want to get sick, and everything in between. It's all because of what is keeping us safe, what we believe to be keeping us safe. And
Mm-hmm.
when we go to the store and someone's not wearing a mask, some people could be judging them. The person without the mask could be judging the people with the mask. A whole gamut of reactions. We're all seeing this thing a little different. As far as communication, same thing. I could be saying something from my perspective, you could be hearing it totally different. If I know my perspective and I understand that someone else has a different perspective, I can adjust the way I communicate. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, even in my coaching, if I know I am coaching someone who is an Enneagram 8, who is, like you said, just someone who is really outspoken and what they're thinking because they are just, not hiding, right? They are out there. They are obviously passionate about whatever they're talking about. I can adjust how I'm talking to that person according to what I know about them. We don't always know what their personalities are like. We don't know where they're coming from all the time. But just the knowledge of, this is how I see the world. Excuse me one second. I have to let my dog out of the room.
That's okay.
He's a needy personality. Okay, so you were mentioning, I work with a lot of moms, and they want to know how to interact with their children. Each one of our children are different.
Right.
And so the same discipline methods, the same teaching, instruction, way we interact with our children is going to be different according to how they see the world. And in the Enneagram, there are 3 different stances. One is one that's a little more almost attacking or forceful. Like you were saying, the D is more driven.
Mhm.
Another one is kind of neutral. And then another one is withdrawn. And we can see that pretty young. Do you have a child that is totally happy and content reading a book in the corner? Do you have a child that when you take them to the park, they dash right for the top rung of the monkey bars?
Mhm.
See that really early on. We can see that with our coworkers.
Right.
Are they the go-getter, the one that's always leading, that's always want to make changes and improvements? Are they the one that's sitting back at the meeting, doesn't say a word to the very end, and then it's this brilliant idea?
Mhm.
We're all a little different, so we can't expect people to be just like us.
Right. That's so true. And when we know that about other people, we know that they're quieter or they're slower paced or they're fast paced. Uh, we can respect that about each other. So sometimes people rub us the wrong way, and we have to stop and think, why did that bother me? It's probably because I'm different than them and we communicate differently, or maybe we're similar and that felt competitive almost.
Right.
So there's different ways we can it. And I actually have been observing both of my children lately and thinking about how can I parent them better according to the behavior styles I'm seeing in them now. I have one who in our disc language would definitely fit that higher I, very social, very influential, very verbally aggressive kind of feeling. And she's also, I guess, what some people would call bossy, and we call them leadership skills because we don't believe that girls are just bossy; they're leaders too. So I'm already seeing this form in her. My family members are seeing this form in her. And how can I shape her to know that those are good skills? You have to use them for good, for other people and for yourself. And then with my son, he would be our C letter of the disc. He's compliant. He's analytical. He loves facts. He loves data. He's driven by things to be very, very accurate and very organized. So he's very detail oriented already at a young age. He's only 8. He's probably headed maybe towards an engineering degree. I don't know. We'll see, but that's the way it's looking right now. So I'm trying to pay attention to those things already. And how do you parent them? Well, you don't put them into a mold that expects them to be like you. You observe those behaviors or those things, like you said, running to the monkey bars. They're an adventurous child, or they're an introvert. Maybe they need more time at home. Maybe they don't need to be on the go all the time. So respecting, how they're put together already and trying to nurture that and see those things. I think that is probably one of the coolest things that parents can do, is pick out those things in their children and, shape them in a healthy way. So I think that's really cool information, Erin, that your parents that you're using with the Enneagram are able to change their parenting styles or change their philosophies according to what they're learning with this assessment.
Well, and they can understand their children better. If one is having a temper tantrum because it's time to go, that child might need a warning. They might need like time to prepare and think, and they might need lots of information. Where are we going? What are we doing? Asking lots of questions. We as parents, if we get frustrated with that because we don't understand that, because we don't function that way, it's just going to cause that conflict where it's like, oh yeah, this is the one that needs to know everything before we go.
Mm-hmm.
So take that time. It's going to be a lot less time, less effort, less energy, less stress if you do that, knowing that that child needs that. The other one's like, that's where we going. Let's go. Let's go. You don't need
Yeah.
that with that one.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so helpful. I really appreciate that we are bringing kids into the mix too, because again, we're just talking about the versatility of emotional health and how it relates to all aspects of your life, whether it's personal or professional.
Right. And
Uh,
work, you can see that too in your coworkers.
yeah, absolutely.
Why are they so upset about this decision that was made? Well, because
Hmm.
if you know a little bit about that person, you understand. So if you are overseeing people, managing people, or if you are being managed, you need to communicate to your manager. It's helpful if you let me know this, and this before we make this decision. Or I would love to lead this project, or whatever it is. Being able to communicate with your
Mhm.
manager, and if you are a manager, being able to communicate with the people you work with in the way that communicates success and encouragement, and they will be much more productive for sure.
Absolutely. I would say I have a copy here of my Trimetrics. This is our full package report, and it's a DISC assessment, which is your work style and your work behaviors, your 12 motivators or your drivers, like the descriptions behind what drives you and motivates you to do why you do what you do. And then our emotional quotient is the newest component of that. So we have a triple science package. And anytime there's like a conflict or I need to work through something in more detail, I go back to the report, and now we know it's not 100% accurate, and there's things that change based on circumstances. But what really relieves anxiety or provides clarity is when you can actually see yourself on paper, and there's actually words or description, on an Enneagram report or a Trimetrics report, when there's actually descriptions about who you are as a person, whether you're a verbal processor or an internal processor. It's so helpful. I mean, it says, okay, well, I'm wired this way. And if I'm processing my world this way, then I can have more confidence to make decisions in a healthier way. Or I can explain to somebody, like my boss or my spouse, this is why I process this way. And you can be more confident, and it really decreases anxiety, I think, a lot when you see yourself on paper.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can I pick up something that you had mentioned earlier? You got me thinking about
Yeah.
Starbucks. And you're at Starbucks and we buy the lotions and the gym membership. Why do we do that? We want to feel good about ourselves, right?
Right.
Self-care is a big buzzword right now. Self-care
Hmm.
is great, and it does make you feel good, but it's super temporary. It lasts until that latte is gone. It lasts until that
Hmm.
workout is over. Self-awareness changes you. It's transformation,
Right.
because once you see things differently, your world changes. The way you interact
Yeah.
with people changes, and it's hard to unsee something that you've seen, right? You can't go back to the way you used to be. You continue to move forward and improve and get healthier the more you are aware of yourself. So the difference between self-care and self-awareness, they both make you feel good. One's temporary, the other one is building and lasting and transformational.
That's a great way to describe it, Erin. I mean, and why do you go to the gym, or why do you get a latte, or why do you put everybody else in front of yourself? Like, why you do what you do is so important, because you're not going to know why you're motivated to do what you do. You're not going to know these things, and you're not going to be able to take strategies or suggestions or feedback from other people internally or externally if you're not even sure why you do what you do or why you behave the way you behave. And so to clarify those things, exactly what you said, it's totally life changing. And, you know, people, we're finding people say, when I taught a class during COVID, people said, these are older adults, men and women. They're saying, I wished I would have had this information years ago to make different decisions in my life, or I would have approached relationships differently, or I wouldn't have gone through the heartache that I've gone through. And so while it can't solve everything and it can't bring world peace, it does help a lot, and it does clarify a lot of things. And so I think it's helped us personally, and that's usually why people get into coaching or speaking, is because they've had a personal transformation and they don't want to keep that to themselves. They want to share it with other people. So Talk a little bit, Erin, about, and I know we'll probably wrap up here in a few more minutes, but talk a little bit about why you got into your business. What motivated you to do what you do?
So I in a season of my life where my children are getting older and starting to leave the nest. And I just kind of asked myself one day, I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I use my years of experience with working with women, specifically moms, and my love for the Enneagram,
Mm.
put them together? And now I'm able to teach and speak to groups of women and coach women one-on-one about how important self-awareness is and how that can make them a better parent, a better employee, a better spouse. Because like you said with your friend, I wish I had this back then when I was first becoming a parent and didn't know where to turn for help and reading this book and going to this friend. If I knew myself better, I would have been able to accept myself better and love myself better. I could have done that better for my children, for my husband, my friends, my family. And I want everyone I work with to have that self-acceptance and that self-love. Because what does it say? Love others as you love yourself. If you're not loving yourself well, if you're not accepting yourself well, how are you going to do that for other people? How can you
Right.
love others fully, completely accepting others if you're not doing it with yourself first?
Right. And I think sometimes we are our biggest roadblock into understanding, what we should do or how we should go about our day or how we should approach our future goals. We're our biggest roadblock because we get stuck with ideas that other people have placed in our lives, or we compare ourselves to other people, and we just lose sight of our individuality in a sense. And we're not glorifying our individuality. I mean, in the assessments we use in my EQ assessment, we talk about social awareness and social regulation as being absolutely essential for living and working successfully. It's not just about yourself, but if you're not able to tune into yourself, you're not able to regulate your thoughts and emotions correctly, and then you're not able to regulate your thoughts and emotions around other people around you. And so, yeah, when people say, I wish I would have had this years ago, what they're saying is, I wish I would have been discovering myself or true to myself or establishing better boundaries and maybe just owning the way I was put together and not feeling shame for it or not being afraid to make decisions and worrying about what other people think. Uh, I think sometimes we get caught up in those things, and it's when you kind of put yourself down on paper and you kind of study these things and you're a student of this or a lifetime student of this, man, it just gives you so much fulfillment and releases a lot of those things. And I think especially like with your clientele with women, this is so needed for women the most, I think, because we somehow get a lot of myths in our head. There's some kind of thing that happens in girls or women especially that tells you what you should or shouldn't do, or how you should or shouldn't behave, or what you should or should be. So I think it's really important, especially for women, to dial into this stuff and then take care of their emotional health, because we are often the caretakers of everybody else around us. So
Right. And what
yeah,
happens?
I personally feel, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. And I was just going to say, what happens when taking care of ourselves? How are we going to take care of others? Right? Like you said, the oxygen mask. If we're not putting ours on first and then our children's, how are we going to help them? If we're not filling our cup first, so we can pour out to others, we're going to have nothing to pour out. Especially during this super stressful time, I am talking to so many women who are just tapped out. They're so stressed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, because they haven't been carving out time to invest in themselves. They haven't been pressing the pause button and telling people no, like you were talking about boundaries. We need to protect our time and our resources
Hmm.
and our energy. Um, and it's not selfish. It's so we can be a better parent, a better partner, a better professional.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Erin, thanks so much for your time today. And I know we've both been promoting some group things on Facebook, and we'll continue to do that. I have several spots still open in my group for women, and I don't my business is not exclusive to women the way yours is, but I resonate with what you're saying. I saw a need for women, especially moms or other women in our community, that I know how I'm feeling, and I have this knowledge and information, and I'm still having trouble with balancing everything and my self-regulation and my ability to kind of keep everything in check. And so I think the heartbeat that you and I have, and I know we have another friend, Doreen, that's doing this too, that we just want to help people right now. We think that, social media relationships are not always just the best way to get socialization right now. And so you need to take it a step further and invest in yourself, and then invest in maybe a community of people who are willing to explore these concepts with you right now. And also, especially for your business, Erin, moms are homeschooling their kids all of a sudden out of nowhere, even when they don't want to. And so as parents, as moms, we need we need the Enneagram, and we need your services to kind of help us make sure we're staying on track so that we can keep our kids on track. And so if anyone's watching this, I just encourage you to consider maybe going a step further at the end of this call and trying to figure out if you want to learn more information about the assessments we talked about and getting a little bit more support going into the fall season. So, Erin, do you have anything else you want to add, or should we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I think you hit it though. Going into the fall with schools being virtual and some are in person. My children are going in person into high school. I'll be curious to see how long that lasts, but the
Yeah.
next over, they're all 100% virtual. How are the parents doing this? If you're not taking time to fuel up to give your kids what they need, you're going to
Yeah.
out immediately. So that's why I chose to have my group coaching experience on Saturday mornings. No school. It's a good way to either, you can look at it as ending the week or getting fueled up to begin the week. And with
Right.
group coaching, we're going to be rediscovering who we are, because we've forgotten, especially in the midst of motherhood, we've forgotten who we are. And so we need to get back to that and rediscover it. We're going to be going through searching for ourselves. I'll teach you tools on how to look for hints and clues of who you truly are. Then finding yourself. How do you know you have found what you've looked for? How do you know what your values are, right? Then knowing yourself and getting to know yourself and almost like dating yourself. Do you cherish yourself? And then loving yourself and really accepting yourself and being in a place of just truly loving yourself so you can love others better.
Right. Absolutely. And honestly, we just wish everybody well right now, just well-being, you know, peace and happiness and joy. And do not let your negative people or negative things going on hijack your emotional security or your motivation for what you're trying to do right now. And so we just wish everybody stay on track, stay successful, and thanks for watching. Bye.